2, 1.
We ready right now.
Yeah.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
How are you?
Hey, who wants to help me get this recorder out of here? I need some muscle over here.
You are listening to Blame Your Brother.
Hello. Welcome, everybody, to Blame Your Brother. We are back once again on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, so come hang out with us on YouTube. Subscribe to that YouTube channel, and you will never miss another live stream. So Thursday nights, 8 p.m., and we are Blame Your Brother. I'm one half of this duo. I am David, a.k.a. D-Brew, voice of people, Glenn Jackson, spiritual midget, Mr. Wonderful, and this gentleman sitting over to my left, it is John.
Everybody, John here, a.k.a. Tico, a.k.a. Mr. Groupon, Mr. PTI, the Madman.
They got John Tortorella, a madman.
They do a madman.
Okay, he's a madman.
All right, so that is Blame Your Brother, David and John. We will be talking for the next hour or so. Lots of topics to talk about this week. Wild week in history, as always. We could say that every week, I guess.
This time, yeah.
Right, yeah. So I just want to give a big shout out at the beginning of the show. There's an episode available of Sobros Network. I was on the second episode of a Nashville content creator type series that Stoney of Sobros is doing. I recorded that this week. It is available right now, so we'll put the link up tomorrow. He's going to start pushing out, but we had a fun discussion. We talked about just the history of the show, how I got into podcasting, and then we did some Mount Rushmores. I did them. Mount Rushmore of Nashville food, Mount Rushmore of things to do in Nashville, and the Mount Rushmore of my personal podcasters. So it was pretty fun. So go check that out. We love those guys. They are just doing great things over there. They got a good staff. If you like movies, music, wrestling, sports, and just pop culture in general, if you like us, you'll enjoy their take as well. So thanks a lot, Stoney, for having me on. It was fantastic. Whenever you hear good things about you from other people, it's kind of, I don't think sometimes you think about it. Like with podcasting, if you think just about along the way, I think of myself like how many people I've got into podcasting that did it for a while or still doing it. I mean, it's just kind of weird. There's like a tree of like people. You're like, oh, okay. And so he was just kind of being very complimentary. Like, you guys were one of the first I found, and I loved. So that's great. It's always good to get pats on your back.
Yeah.
Because the internet is I've been on TikTok lately, and I've discovered that for me, if I post anything political at all, like in any manner, that's when people come out. I'm at the age now where I think the mean comments are funny. I genuinely do. Like, you asked me that 10 years ago, I don't think I was ready to handle it. And now I'm just like, I don't give a what anyone thinks about. I really don't. If I'm being out of line and somebody steps in, then yeah. But if you're just being an idiot for idiot's sake, I don't really care. So that's kind of that. Next week, no show. I'll be on my trip out to the Northeast, landing in Boston, going to Vermont, checking all that lovely area out. So, no show next week. Just giving you a reminder at the top of the show, but, that'd be good. Everybody can use a week off. So what's going on with you, John? I know some bad news in the household this week.
Yes, we lost a family member.
Okay.
We had my wife's cat that she's known longer than me.
Right.
Passed away yesterday, and just kidney failure. And
you mean passed away or euthanized?
Euthanized,
okay.
But I mean, she was gonna.
Yeah.
She probably wouldn't have made it through the night anyway.
No, it's right. Yeah, I mean,
so.
I had a dog. We had a dog, Jesse, for about 10 years, and at the end, that's maybe less than 10 years. But his kidneys shut down as well. So on that front, I know what you were going through. It's tough, because people. I mean, the cat was old though, right? Like 16 and a half. So there is comfort in that. I mean, that is a long life. But it sucks losing a pet. Losing the dog, I was just like, I don't want to do this for a long time. So now the family's like talking about a dog. Luckily, my daughter is petrified of dogs, so that kind of works out in my favor right now. And I love animals, but when you lose one like that, it's tough,
Yeah.
I mean, how did you deal? I mean, were you affected by it, or?
I am.
Okay.
Not nearly as much as my wife, obviously.
Right.
She she found Chloe, or Chloe found her, is how she probably put it. But there are, we had a unique relationship, and there are definitely things that in the moment are very annoying, but actually I'm going to end up missing.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Our dog would regularly, because I would get up around 5 every morning for a long time, and so he knew I got up at that time. So every day, even on the weekends, he wanted to get up at that time to go outside to use the bathroom. Yeah. So after a while, you start to get annoyed by it, and then you're like, yeah, my wife took it very hard. I mean, I took it, I cried about it and it was upset, and but she took it super hard. So I get it. Well, that sucks, man. You got other pets?
No, that's it. We had a bird that passed away a few years ago, but I was not very close to that thing at all.
Are people close to birds? I mean, come on.
I don't know. Whenever I tried to feed this thing, if my hand got within inches of this thing's cage, she would start laying into my hands, like pecking and biting, and like, ah. And it was funny because I had the bird here while we were still dating, me and Robin, and because she was like in the process of moving here, and so I had the pets here, and my sister was visiting me while I was trying to feed the bird, and I'm like, trying not to cuss up a storm, trying to feed this bird. My sister's like, you must really love Robin, because I can tell you hate feeding that bird.
Yeah, my grandmother, I spoke of last week, but she had a pet bird, and that thing would just fly around, and I don't know. I'm not a fan. I don't think birds should be pets. I'm going on record saying that. I don't think birds should be pets. You can say whatever you want, but I think there's a line we got to start drawing, right?
You don't want it flying around your house, but is it right to keep it in the cage?
No.
And so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, we're simpatico here.
I kind of agree with you. I mean,
everyone reasonable will agree with me, John. There's certain animals, like people like, I've got a pet raccoon. Like, no, you shouldn't have that in your house. You should not have a pet pig. You should not have, even ferrets to me are really straddling in that line of like, do these need to be pets? Like dog, a cat, fish, which if fish die, I mean, who cares? Are there people crying about fish? I'm sure there are, but I'm like, they're fish. I mean, there's literally millions of them. You could just go out and get another one. But dogs and cats hit hard, especially if I was just ranking them. I mean, it seems dogs hit people the hardest. If you're like a dog person, people have very strong bonds with their dogs. Like, it's crazy.
Dogs tend to be a lot, not just a little bit, but a lot more affectionate than cats are.
Right. Oh, yeah. And
then you've got comedians. I mean, if there's a comedian that talks about pets, they always make the same joke. Whereas if you own a dog, when you come home, the dog's like, where have you been? Oh, my gosh. Blah, blah, blah. If you have a cat, the cat's like, oh, it's you.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And so
I've had both. And, the dog are definitely, they need your companionship. Cats are like, I'm just allowing you to be my companion.
Yeah.
It's
you're lucky I'm letting you stay here.
Right. And cats will bounce. They will bounce. We used to have pet cats when we were small, and they were outside cats, and they inside outside, and they would, if they found another house with better food, they're out. They're like, I'm done. A dog, no way. A dog won't leave even if an owner beats the living hell out of a dog.
There have been
around.
Stories where people have lost their dog on vacations, states away, and the dog would make it back home.
So I'm crazy. When we went to Japan, there is a statue dedicated to a dog who would show up to the train. So he had an owner. The dog would walk to the train every day with the owner. And I guess the owner passed away, and the dog kept showing up to that train for like a long time waiting for the owner. And that's heartbreaking. Like, you hear that, like, wow, So, well, bummer, man. Sorry to hear that. Anything else happening this week? Or
I'm on my second week of physical therapy.
Yeah, how's that going?
I mean, it's not great, but
Are you feeling better?
Right when I leave, I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
And then about halfway on the drive home, soreness just starts back.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, you got another, 2 weeks?
As of right now.
Okay.
But it's like we do some and then we
Oh, okay. I got
evaluate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, okay. Well, sounds like you're having a great week. Between the cat dying and the soreness after physical therapy.
and no sleep as well.
Yeah, no
'cause, I
sleep
mean,
constantly.
yeah.
Well, let me try to cheer you up. Let's just, I don't have anything. Like I said, my big thing's coming up on the trip, but this has been a pretty uneventful week, which I like.
Amen.
I will say we're going to get to some news that might make you smile. So let's just go ahead. Let's hit the news. I want to hit this first story here. I love anything that brings Donald Trump down. That's kind of like my theory. So, I mean, you all know who Donald Trump is. You either love him, you hate him. And his big thing in life, from what I've seen, is that he's rich, right? I mean, that's his thing. He's constantly talked about, I'm a billionaire, I'm this and this. Well, today it was revealed that Donald Trump has been dropped off Forbes' ranking of wealthiest Americans. He dropped out of the top 25, as you can see from there. No, he dropped out of the wealthiest Americans for the first time in 25 years. So Mr. Trump he's out. He's no longer. I thought this guy was worth billions of dollars, is what he said. That's what he constantly said.
I think if you include all of his properties,
there's no way the guy's worth $1 billion. People have done studies and they said he may not be.
I think liquid assets, no. But if you include his properties,
Are you including loans against his company? I mean, he's still paying some of these things off.
yeah. But I mean, he owns casinos. He owns.
A lot of those have been shut down.
I mean, there's.
I mean, I will say this. I don't, I hate this man. I would say, do you hate him? I do hate Trump. I think he's just one of the worst things ever. But being in president for 4 years probably did not help his wealth, right? I mean, anybody that takes that job, you can't focus on your money, and you're not really making any money. You're making money, but you're not making what you used to make because you can't focus on the money. But I'm sure he is super mad about this today, and that makes me happy. So, hopefully that.
Any blood of his ego will make him mad.
Right. Well, another crazy story that came out today. Did you know that Captain Kirk is going into space next week? So
Willie Shatner.
William Shatner has agreed to go into space with Mr. Bezos with the Blue Origin space thing they're doing. Happened, how long ago was that? Like a couple weeks ago, where they sent the first people into space, quote unquote. I mean, space. They went up in the sky. They've said like planes have flown higher than this was. But anyway, on October 12th, Mr. Shatner, who sang the song Rocket Man and played Captain Kirk, who is over a fleet Enterprise, is flying into space. If this happens and it's successful, he will be the oldest man ever to be in space, quote unquote. What do you think about it? Is it insane or what? It's like doesn't even make sense to me on some level.
It seems like it's mostly publicity.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, who are you going to send out to space?
All right, so Bezos listens to this podcast tomorrow. He agrees to send me and you. We'll be the first podcasters in space. Would you do it? And we both have to agree to it, or neither of us can do it.
It'd take a whole lot of you convincing me.
I'm
saying out of the gate, no, I'm not. No.
It's really a tough. I mean, the goal of life, in my opinion, is to have as many. Well, number one, it's, yes, I would say it's to have as many great experiences as possible, right? I mean, I guess that's one of the things of life. Obviously, if you have a family, your family is number one. But after that, and I think if your family, you enjoy them, that is a great experience. So I'm kind of caveating by that. But I think it's to do the things. I mean, everyone wants to be remembered. We talk about death a lot lately, but really the only way you'll be remembered in 200 plus years is if you're recorded in a book somewhere as part of history. So that would sink me. Like if he said, you guys will be the first podcasters in space, yes, I would definitely be convincing you to go. Now, would I have doubts about it? Obviously. I mean, but is it any really, I mean, when you think about life and what we do every day, is it any more dangerous, truthfully, than driving almost every day out of the year? I mean, it seems the odds of dying.
Okay, what if?
Yes.
Same story, but
okay,
the flight that William Shatner's on, God forbid, something goes wrong.
Oh, hell no. No, I'm not. No, I'm not in it at all. But you could almost go, well, I mean, if something happens to one, then it's probably not like if you saw a plane crash on the news today, that would be bad. It would be a sad story, right? I mean, but it's probably not going to happen again for a long time, statistically speaking, right?
Yeah, but the thing is how many planes are there?
Okay, you're flying on Delta Airlines. A Delta plane goes down. I mean, and you have a Delta flight. Would you cancel it the next day? No. Nobody would.
But
Yes.
if flying planes were new
Right.
and the last plane was a month ago
Yeah, I mean,
and it was like the fourth or fifth one ever to go,
I'll give you some thoughts, yeah. I still think even if you blow up in the airplane or the spacecraft, you're still going to be in the news forever. So, I mean, really, what are you aiming toward legacy? Like,
I'm not aiming toward a legacy like that.
well, you can't control your legacy,
mean-
right? You can't control your legacy. If someone just come down and said, you're going to be part of history forever, right? And that's all they said. That could mean anything, right?
I would assume it'd be something negative
Oh, John.
because I'm not that special.
John, are you Charlie Brown here, man? Like,
Good grief.
I think I would do it. I think I'd be scared out of my mind, but I think I would do it. So I mean, just hopefully, Bezos is obviously a wealthy man. He has, I would imagine, intelligent people working on this. So I hope it does go good. If this goes bad, it'd be the news story of the possible. I mean, it's 2000, so I'm trying to think what has happened in 2000. I mean, yeah, coronavirus, but I always wonder how we're going to look at that in 100 years. Like if we get past it, or if it becomes like kind of like you just get a shot every year, the impact's going to be a lot less noticeable for future generations. Like we hear about the Great Depression, we're like, yeah, whatever. People didn't have money. I mean, no one really sits there and thinks about it. But if you lived in the Great Depression, that was probably, you're thinking this is the worst thing that can ever happen.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, there comes World War II. Oh, that was bad. Vietnam War. Oh boy. You know, so then you start, everything goes down. But if William Shatner was to, if something happens on that spacecraft, which like, once again, I don't think it will. I think there's a 98% chance nothing bad will happen. Now, I have no expertise on this, just what I think. But if it did, you would never hear the end of this. If Jeff Bezos was in it, it definitely would be one of the top stories of all time. I mean, one of the wealthiest men on the planet, and a guy who played a captain on Star Trek dies, it would be rough. So I just hope they know what they're doing. You know, if I was just, I don't know, man. I think, like I said, we thought about, I guess I would do it I guess I would go up there if I was given a chance. I'm not paying for it. Like, it would have to be free, obviously. Yeah. I don't have the money for it. And once again, wealth provides you opportunity to do all these great things in your life you want to do. Speaking of going down, I don't know, you just saw this week that Facebook and Instagram went down. Okay. Now, I love Instagram for what it is. I mean, I understand, and we'll talk about this in a second. Facebook, whatever. You know, I honestly thought if Facebook goes down forever, good, I'm clapping. I think it's become an unnecessary evil. And anyway, so we'll follow this timeline here. So earlier, I think this must have been on Wednesday. It was Wednesday. So Wednesday, Facebook and Instagram go down. And the only reason I know this is because I was on Twitter hanging out, and I saw a bunch of people going, Facebook's down. I went, oh, is it? And I went, who cares? So earlier in the week, someone that used to work at Facebook was basically a whistleblower on the company, stating that they are aware that Instagram, who they cited, is specifically aware that the social media format is very bad for teenage girls, like very bad on their emotional status, mental status, because it says, you know, people go there looking, as most social media, I'm starting to believe, is a lot of people, not all of them, but a lot of people go there for a pat on the back, right? And then it takes
They're looking for some level of approval that they're not getting elsewhere.
But it turns a corner, and then they're getting attacked. Especially, I can't even imagine. I've tried to wrap my head around this. If Facebook had been around in high school when we went, can you even? I can't even imagine it. I cannot imagine it. Right? I mean, I guess for people that live on the outskirts of the society standards of high school, maybe it wouldn't have affected us as much as we think it would have. But people would have been trying to play bad pranks, like on people, catfishing, probably getting indecent pictures of people, spreading those around. We've seen these things happen, you know. And so this woman came out, she said they were aware of it and that they were aware that Facebook was generating hate attacks. They were aware of this. There's a percentage of people that they know have been victims of hate crimes because of Facebook. They put a percentage number on it. Okay. So that's all revealed. The woman who worked there goes on the news. I believe it was 60 Minutes, does a story. I believe the day after or 2 days after that story, Facebook goes offline. Employees are locked out of the building. The website goes down. Facebook.com was available for sale for a short period of time. And people with inside information are saying that all the code that was in Facebook has been erased and redone completely. I understand sometimes conspiracy theories can be a bit much, but my God, that seems like there's some
It's
connection.
awfully convenient.
Yeah, it's very. So what was in that code? What was in that code? I mean, maybe somebody's got the code. I don't know. I don't know if it's proprietary to Facebook. And so the argument from people is that, what's wrong with Facebook? Fast food, makes people have heart attacks every year, and cigarettes kill people. And it's like, yeah, that's fair, except that Facebook is not a regulated company at all. They're unregulated. Yeah. I mean, yes, the FDA checks all the food that go, in theory. The FDA is responsible, at least, for that. We know there's a governing body over our food. There's a governing body.
At least there's a tobacco organization that works in the government.
Right.
Also, at least if the sellers are following guidelines, you have to be 18 to buy the cigarettes.
Right. Yes.
So I mean, there are.
That's true.
Limitations.
I didn't think about the age thing, because there should be an age thing on social media. Not saying kids won't get around it. We know all kids are on Facebook early in their life because you just can lie. There's no. I would think, I've always thought that a way to work around this is that in order to be part of Facebook, you must present a valid ID, and your picture of your ID must be your Facebook avatar. I think that would cut down on a lot of this catfishing, a lot of the anonymous trolls. I know people are like, oh, you can't do that. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. It's a private company. They can literally do whatever they want, but they know they'll lose money on it because now they're making money. Their stock fell so much in those few hours. The numbers were billions of dollars. They lost billions of dollars. And I just look in a world that if Facebook didn't exist, I just think it would make the world a better place.
Be a little better, yeah.
I know. I mean, right? So, because it's just become this weird space where a lot of people are just spreading conspiracy theories that aren't true, facts that aren't true. And, they kicked Trump off, obviously. They kicked a lot of the MAGA people off. And it's just that, to me, that tells you something. They're kicking these people off. They must be really bad. And I always see
if you don't meet Facebook guidelines,
like, what are you on there doing?
No.
I'll see sometimes people I follow or casual friends going, I was in Facebook jail for a few hours. I'm like, what does that mean? You got kicked off Facebook for what? What are you on here posting? Like, why are you posting things that will get you kicked off here? I just don't understand the mindset of people. I mean, obviously to get in Facebook jail, I think you have to get more than one strike against you as well. So it's like, you didn't only do it once, you did it multiple times. It's I don't know, it's insane. But, we just haven't, as a society, have not really looked at the damage long-term that social media is going to do, because it just showed up one day. And then I think the other thing we said, is it not insane, truthfully, when we look at studies? I'm not saying this will ever happen, but cigarettes are like a legal thing in this country. It's a bit odd. I mean, we know they literally cause cancer. Like, that's not like we're saying obviously they can cause cancer. They don't always cause cancer, but it's wild to me that they're not allowed to advertise. They're not allowed to, sell to a certain age. Then we need to start taking some of the guidelines and maybe, and I'm not for censoring, but I think there has to be some line in the sand at some point. If this is negatively affecting kids, then something's got to be done about it. I don't know what that answer is. I'm not in the tech world. I don't have answers about it, but I think anyone that is in the tech world is kind of saying the same thing. Like, this is bad, but as long as it keeps making money, I don't think it's ever going to happen. So,
Well, I
don't know.
mean, I think that's why cigarettes are still around. It's
Money.
it's part of America's history,
You're right. Yeah.
and it makes too much money for the country. It's not going to go anywhere. And I mean, Facebook with all the ads and everything, there's too many people that are benefiting
That's true.
from it.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not going to go anywhere.
It's always follow the money, right? I mean, we can keep saying this over and over on the show, but it's follow the money. Like if Facebook wasn't making any money, they'd be like MySpace. They'd have been done.
Yeah.
Now they are a global corporation where people are on it all throughout the world. You're right. Ad revenue alone, right? I mean, just think about that. Ad revenue. If you put enough money into Facebook, into an ad, people are going to get your product, whether it's good or bad.
A lot of it's scams. How many ads can you look at on Facebook and know without even clicking?
Yeah.
That's a scam.
Oh, most of them, right?
Yeah.
And I've said it before. I think I even said it on Sobros podcast. Like, but they got me. They know the stuff I like. Like this dude likes hats and T-shirts, and so I've bought many of these before on there. So yeah, it's a money making machine. It's never going to get stepped down. It's just going to see what kind of regulation they can put on it, because then you start getting into some very gray areas of censorship. I get that. I mean, I understand. Yeah, but I keep going. It's a private company at the end of the day.
I mean, we've talked about Black Mirror on here before, and there's been a couple of episodes on Black Mirror that were, social media-esque.
Yes.
That did not go well.
No, I think all of the episodes never went well for the most part of social media aspects on Black Mirror. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Whatever Zuckerberg's doing, he might be an alien. I don't know, man. I don't know. But speaking of weirdos, I'm gonna tell you that I watched the documentary called The Way Down this past week. It is a 3-part docuseries on HBO Max about the Remnant Fellowship Church. Okay. Now, if you've been listening for a long time on the podcast, you know that I attended a church function there, a wedding of some of the members of this church. Now you're thinking, David, do you know anyone in that church? I know them directly? No, my wife works with them, and that's how we were invited to the church. And when I went to the church, Gwen Shamblin, who's on the screen right now, was there. I mean, I saw her about 5 feet away from me. Her and her husband, who both died in the plane crash. So they start making this series about this church, okay, and it focuses heavily on Gwen Shamblin, who is the high priestess of the church. And I watched it, and I had a few thoughts. So if you don't know, it is, I'll try to explain to you kind of the concept of the church. So the church, she was a Church of Christ member for a long time of her life.
I'm sorry, but before you go on, whenever I hear the word priestess, there's 2 thoughts coming to my head.
Right.
Either cult or a fantasy, either movie or novel.
Yeah. But I mean, what's different than that in prophet?
I don't know.
No, not much. I mean, you have a prophet in your church, right?
We do, but
So I look at
the word prophet is actually in like scripture,
right.
and I mean, yeah, priest is too, but
That's what I'm saying. So let me explain, because I got thoughts, man. I'm anti-religious. I think it's weird when I'm gonna explain. So she was Church of Christ, right? And she was in Church of Christ. Women aren't allowed to be speakers. They're not allowed to be deacons. They're not allowed to do anything. Like woman, know your role. And they back up Bible verses. They're not making these up. Church of Christ is, if it's literally in this book, we literally have to follow the way it is. And that is one way to take religion. Whatever. But she figured out the smart thing to do would be, I'm going to out Church of Christ, the Church of Christ people. Because Church of Christ believes that basically only Church of Christ members are going to heaven. No one else. Baptist, you're all going to hell. Jehovah's Witness, hell. Catholic, hell. I mean, this is literally, I was raised in this church. I can tell you.
yeah.
This is literally the message they're teaching. She said, you know what? Let's take that idea and let's go a little bit further with it. We're going to say, if you're not part of this specific church we're in, you're going to hell. Okay. I was like, it's actually pretty genius. It's taking the legalism of that and applying it to her church. So she started out doing this thing called Way Down Ministries. Way, W-E-I-G-H. It was a weight loss system where essentially it said, you eat when you're hungry, eat until you're not hungry anymore, and don't eat until you're hungry again. I was like, that's actually a pretty good diet plan, I guess. I mean, I was like, but there was prayer involved with it, and you have to pray and all this stuff. If you're hungry and you've already eaten, think you've eaten enough, you can pray. Essentially, it was creating. I mean, people were losing weight. Obviously, if you get someone that weighs 300 pounds and they start only eating when they're hungry and start cutting down, that they're going to lose weight, right? I mean, that's simple. Like, duh. How do you lose weight? Diet and exercise. That's how you do it.
If you create any kind of task that you have to do before you eat,
yes, right.
It's gonna limit.
So that takes off, and then she starts her own kind of church, starts bringing people with her. I mean, she's obviously I didn't see it, but they said she's very charismatic, a great spokesperson. The clips I saw in the documentary, I was like, I don't know if she's that great of a speaker, but she definitely had a weird look. She started out looking normal, and then her hair started getting higher and higher and higher, and it was ridiculous. When I saw it at the wedding, I was like, oh my God. Like, it looked like a drag queen. It was ridiculous, man, right? And she looks like she weighs like 100 pounds. So what
she does kind of look like a drag queen.
Oh, yeah, she does. I mean, she was a beautiful woman earlier. I mean, she wasn't like a model, but I was like, she's attractive, whatever. I mean, So what started happening is if you didn't lose the weight, you had to pay the price. Basically, you may get kicked out of the church if you can't have a church that says, we're all about the weight loss, and then you got fat people in the church, right? That makes you look bad. So if you were gaining weight, they'd say, well, they didn't say demons, but you got sinful things in your life you're not addressing. So they would pin it on that. They taught very strict child abuse. If your child's making noise, hit them. You can hit them with a spoon. You can hit them with a belt. You can hit them with whatever. And then one parent, and this is how people became aware of this church. They killed their son. He was making noise during a 3-hour church service. You darn kids, because
for 3 hours.
The kids have to do whatever the parents do. So if the kids go to 3-hour church, kid has to sit there with them and do whatever they do. That's another one of their things. All right.
So they don't have like separate Sunday school for the kids?
No. Not according to this documentary, no. So this kid was being disruptive. So the dad was seen punching this child earlier by a girl that was not part of the church, but she would babysit the kids when they had functions or whatever. And she said, she was like, hey, your son, he's looking upset today. Is there anything I can do for him? And she goes, yeah. And he showed her his fist. He goes, just hit him. She goes, I'm not doing that. He goes, no, that's what you got to do. You just got to take your fist and hit him. She went, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And she goes, and that day, I never worked there again. And she saw him hit the child, right? So this child's getting the hell beat out of him at the house. And they put him in a toy chest thing, and he would keep popping his head up. So on the last time, they took this toy chest and bam, hit him right in the top of the head. They showed like an autopsy, not like a paper autopsy. And his head had all these contusions at the top. And when he went in, they came back from service, opened it up, dead. So asphyxiation and the trauma he had suffered. And these people were sentenced. They're in jail. This is here locally in Nashville. Now, that doesn't break your heart. It doesn't get any worse than that. They were telling women, if your husband comes in, he wants sex, you have to give it to him. You just got to do it. I'm like, dude, come on. So this woman was like, yeah, my husband would come in and just force sex up on me. I was like, oh my God, dude. But I kept watching it and I went, all right, man. Yeah, I get it. These are all bad things, but minus the death of the kids and her and obviously she was taking all the money from the people. That's what it's what Jimmy Baker done. That's what all of them do. Joel Osteen. I started going, what's the difference between this and like other Southern churches? I don't think people outside the area are familiar with the power structure of the church in the South. And I find it funny when people attack Scientologists or people attack Mormons or people attack any group of religion and their religion themselves. I'm like, what is it about what they're saying that you have a problem with? You honestly believe that your God started the world. He was angry and mad as hell. He was killing people left and right, man. And then it got to 0 AD, come down to earth. Oh, they don't believe in the Trinity either, the Covenant Church.
What do they believe?
Just God.
What is Jesus?
Like the Son of God. He's a separate entity. He was God's. Is that what the Mormons believe?
Yeah, we believe that Jesus is literally.
So whatever you believe, he was Son of Man or he's Son of God. He come down. He died. He came back. Okay, if you believe all of that, how can you, with audacity, attack other religions? I've never understood. I'm like, so what part of your religion, where's the part where it breaks off and it's like too weird, right? I'm like, look, she says she was a priestess. Obviously, I don't believe that at all. I believe anyone says they've ever heard God, and I've literally talked to people that said they have heard God, like voice of God talking to them. To me, I think that's absurd. Like, okay, man. And is this a cult? I mean, I guess you would say the person said the reason something becomes a cult, they had a bunch of like talking heads in the documentary. He said once the people are serving the leader more than the leader serving the people, that's the definition of not a cult. It is a destructive cult. He said cult is any group of people that all share a common interest and come together on it. So you could have cults of Doctor Who. You could have cults of something ridiculous, right? It doesn't have to be religious connotations, but people have applied that to like Charlie Manson, the Kool-Aid, Jim Jones and all that. And I just thought, I mean, obviously it's weird. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that, but I don't think it's more out of line. I think they do a disservice because they don't let kids come out of the church and talk to people about a lot of the kids they say suffer depression because they're just being made to live a certain way. And I understand that. I mean, being part of a kid and teenager is rebellion, right? You taught something and you want to rebel. You don't even know why. You just, you should question things and do that. And they're not really taught to do that. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's obviously bad. It's no worse than, like I say, I think Joel Osteen's just as bad as they are. So, is the Joel Osteen documentary come out? I mean, he may be worse than these people. Any preacher that's rocking a helicopter to church wearing $5,000 outfits, there's a problem with that. Like, at the basis of religion, what it's truly supposed to be about is the message of Jesus if you're a Christian, And Jesus did not teach all the things that people say he did, and it's just like, I can't understand it. Like, so that being said, you should watch the documentary because it's based here in Nashville, Brentwood, which is an outshoot of Nashville. And it was just weird watching a documentary of a place I'd been before. I was like, yep, I stood right there. Yep, I was there. And I've seen her. And I just think, I'm more just bothered by just them controlling the church members' lives. But, at some point we're all adults and you got to make your own decision. Like, even if you're in a destructive relationship, at some point you got to get self-aware and go, I got to get the hell out of here. But as with some of these churches, I think a lot of churches, all of them, they trap you in the social structure where if you leave, you don't have a lot of friends. They created a network of jobs where they could all work together. And once you leave, you cut your job supply off. So if you're a hairdresser and you do all the members of the church and that's your primary income and you leave, you're down to zero, and it's hard to restart, So I don't know. And she obviously is dead now. So, and no one from the church spoke in the documentary, which is kind of unfortunate. I feel like it would have been good to hear some of their opinions because we're really getting one side of the other side. Yeah. These could be disgruntled members. I don't know these people. Like, I don't know if these people are good people. Are they bad people? Or are they just bitter because the church, that's the only thing about documentaries all the time is that they can just showcase that one side of the argument. And then we all believe, we're like, oh, it's got to be this way. I mean, there's serial podcasts focused on Adnan, and it seemed it was Adnan's innocent was their primary. So you listen to it, and you're like, oh, this guy's innocent. But then I started thinking about that. I said, well, wait a minute. There's a lot of proof.
Wherever you get your story from, that's...
Yeah.
And so, there's not going to be a lot. A few years ago, PBS did a documentary on Mormonism.
Right.
And they actually got, antis and members and people who used to be, kind of across the board. And so I believe that even though there was stuff that was in it, obviously if there are people that are anti that I didn't agree with, but they did get
what are the
pretty wide range.
What are the anti-sentiments that you remember? What's just one or two that stood out to you?
They questioned Joseph Smith is the founder of Mormonism, basically.
Okay.
And he saying things that were about his life that weren't necessarily true.
Stuff our co-host used to say. Lee used to, okay, I've heard of it. Okay, so that's one of their big things. Look, man, and I've told you before, I mean, there's parts of any church that I just like, the anti-gay movement by a lot of churches. I don't like that. I think stay in your lane. That's why I think the Baptists are probably the best at it. Just, practice your stuff, do your things. But when I find out like the Mormon church or any of these churches are funding like anti-gay campaigns, man, it's a problem. I don't know where you sit with it. You're in the church, but if I was a member of that church, I would have to come out and go, dude, I don't think this is how it's supposed to be. Like, I thought Jesus said, love the sinner. You can hate the sin all you want, but these people are, I don't know. It's a lot to take in. And obviously, I lived here. I understand the church probably better than people in the Midwest or because you forget about that if you grow up in the South and you were part of the church, this stuff's indoctrinated in you, right? Like you know it. Like so when they were talking about stuff in the documentary, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Yep, that's right. Yep, that's how Church of Christ is. And so it's a good watch, though. I think we all like to see stuff outside of our area. And the biggest thing I've seen is people in Nashville going, how did I not know about this church? Because they're insulated. That's why you didn't know about them. That's the smartest thing they could have done. Why would they want people knowing about them? Then they're going to start, making documentaries about them. The best thing is probably to stay secret. Once they find out your secret, I don't know. So it'd be curious to see, like I said,
the more eyes you have on you, the better the chances of scrutiny.
Yes, for sure. So it's called The Way Down at HBO. It's 3 parts. So if you want to bang that out, do it. I think it's at least a fascinating look at how this woman grew to power. And I'm not even discussing a lot of the things that happen. Some of it's insane. You're like, what? How is this happening? But the kid death was like, whoa. I think, ouch. Yeah, I would leave a church immediately. I don't care if it cost me everything. If they were like, yo, man, just beat your kid, I'd be like, I'm out, man. Nope. I'm out. One woman was like, yeah, they told me to do that. She goes, I did it one time. And she goes, hit him with a glue stick. I never heard of this, but a glue stick's like have you ever heard of a glue stick? It's like a big stick. It's like, I thought it was like kind of a painter stick, but it's this big, thick stick, and they would just wham, hit the kids with them at like as babies, as toddlers, if they were moving around while they were changing their diapers. I'm like, bro, you're dead, number one. If a daycare did that to my kid, I'm getting charges on me 100%. Yeah. So Way Down, go check it out, and let us know if you watch that. Okay, well, let's get to it, man. Halloween season is upon us. Halloween's all right, It's not my favorite holiday. You said it's one of your favorites?
I like any holiday where if you could look at somebody, you can tell if they celebrate it or not.
All right.
And so Halloween is definitely up there.
Okay. Well, it's all right. Once again, it's not my least favorite holiday, but I think adults have just seized a holiday that was not meant for adults, and they've made it their own. And I guess that's America. But anyway, to do that, we're going to celebrate by doing the next 3 Mount Rushmores. Wait a second. Are we going to... Yeah, we're skipping next week. We're still going to be at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Including tonight. 3.
Okay. We're doing 3 Halloween-themed Mount Rushmores. Tonight, we decided we're going to do best scary movies, the Mount Rushmore of scary movies. So, I took my list, and I said, what movies genuinely scared me as a child, and kind of still today, I'm like, it's kind of creepy. Is that kind of how you did it?
I took it as like, and I took it for... when it came out,
right?
Because obviously, there's so much more they can do with effects and everything nowadays that they couldn't do back then. And so what when it came out, the effect that it had on people.
Okay.
And I didn't do much for jump scares. I did it for giving you an eerie feeling.
I'm with you.
Watching it.
I'm with you. Yeah.
And that's what I went with.
Jump scares are cheap. We can make a whole movie of jump scares, right? It's not that hard to do. Yeah. So, all right. Well, John, you go first this week. So, John, it's going first on the Mount Rushmore of scary movies. All right. What you got at number 1?
My number 1. Speaking of when it came out, they were handing out barf bags when you were going to see this movie. There are countless parodies of it.
I think you grabbed my number 1.
I probably did. But my number 1, The Exorcist.
You definitely got my number 1, yep. Yeah. So you talk about special effects. The special effects in this are still creepy as hell to this day.
Because, a lot of it you can't tell how they did it still.
It's a little girl possessed by the devil, I guess, or a demon, whatever the case would be. And she's doing some gnarly things, man. Like, for people who haven't seen it, I know it's an older movie. It came out, in 73, I think. 73, yeah. and it's still creepy as hell. It is the scariest movie. If you ask me, like, if you just say, yo, scariest movie right now, I'm not watching this shit at night. That's for sure. It's too creepy for me, man. There's weird things going on. The backwards crawl that Bray Wyatt incorporated in WWE.
Yeah.
There's the crucifix scene. Look, there's all kinds of crazy things happening.
The head spin, which I still don't know how they did that.
I don't either.
The pea soup thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's freaky. So that's got to be the number one. If that's not on your Mount Rushmore, you're lame, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I figured you'd grab that one. So I'm going to go with one of the most realistic horror movies I've seen. This would be, and it's Adam Pewitt if he's listening. It's one of his favorites. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre is scary as hell because, unlike some other slasher movies that might make an appearance, some of them are done well. This was like based in reality. This isn't some dude popping up in your dreams. I'm going to kill you. And this trope continues along the way, though. It's kind of redneck cannibals. That is like one of the scariest things in the world. Like if you're out somewhere in the middle of nowhere and you run into a bunch of just white trash.
I mean, mountain folk. I mean, it's
Yes.
not just, I
mean, Deliverance, which I don't know. I'm not sure that's even going to make the list, but that aspect of Deliverance is scary as hell. Like, oh, these mountain men are going to come get me and do things
If you're
to
in
me.
a position where you were helpless and you were surrounded by people like that,
Yeah.
they could have the best intentions in the world, but you're going to be creeped out.
Right.
Now multiply that by millions.
Oh, yeah. Because
with the fact that these people do not have the best intentions.
And this is an older
So-
movie. I don't know. This came out in the 70s as well. I don't know
Yeah.
when, but this is one of the literally,
I think this one was 74.
okay, creepiest damn movies I've ever seen. I mean, I watched this going, number one, I think it's beautifully shot. I mean, for what it is. I mean, that last scene of the movie is just, oh my God, I can't, get it out of my head. But, and then Leatherface, what can you say? To me, you go to any haunted house, the scariest part of the haunted house, for a lot of people, not for me, but is when Leatherface chases people with a chainsaw. People lose their minds, man.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen grown people run and scream and almost cry, and I'm like, dude, it's not real, guys. Like, to me, haunted houses are that jump scares get me. I've never went in and went, oh, I'm so scared. I mean, I admire a haunted house, and that's why I like them, but I've always laughed at that. But because that image is in people's head of that movie. So that one, the dinner scene, just all the craziness, the family's creepy. It's just wow. So yeah, that if I'm gonna put on two for Halloween, like the holiday, and I really want to scare people, those two movies are going on. So my number one, Texas Chainsaw, without a doubt. All right, John, number two for you.
My number two, when this movie came out, it was basically a phenomenon.
Okay.
And there were a lot of people were under the assumption that this was real.
Okay.
And they, to the point that there were even subsequent videos describing the history of this phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And so my number two pick is The Blair Witch Project.
Of course, that was definitely going to be on my. See, this is when the Mount Rushmore sucks. Is when you're like, shoot, you're grabbing all the good ones. Blair Witch.
I think when it comes to scary, because I think neither of us are really big on slashers,
Not at all.
and so
Yes.
we're going for the cerebral scare.
Yes.
And when Blair Witch came out, the documentary that came out
Right.
with it was called Sticks and Stones.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched this before I watched the movie, and I thought it was brilliant the way it all tied together, and it created a brand new mythology of something that did not exist prior. And it was beautifully shot. The whole found footage. So many movies, and there may be some others on our list that came from this.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, it changed the game as far as a lot of horror movies are concerned.
That end scene is literally one of the scariest end scenes I've ever seen in my life. So much. I mean, as an adult, I was freaked out by that in my house at night. I was like, oh my God. That's really what makes it scary is when you know it's not real, but you're like we're describing all like very realistic movies, right? Like we're like, this stuff could happen theoretically. I mean, whether you believe in demon possessions or not, there's been recorded, things of those happening, but these are like, this isn't, like I said, this isn't some monster coming to get you. This is friends go to the woods and they get picked off one by one, and you just have to watch how it happens. And I'd say the end shot for that movie, and I do love that movie a lot. Like, I went and saw it in theater, saw part 2. It was the worst movie I've ever seen. But because part 2 made it a movie.
Yeah.
The beauty of it, and what kids will never understand, like, as you're describing it, this was presented as reality.
Yeah.
Like, we literally, people thought this was real. I mean, it was shot like it was real. I mean, so.
Like, I mean, can you name another movie that any of those actors were in?
No.
Yeah.
I think the problem, film geeks started going, wait a minute. I just saw
Well,
I just saw these people doing an interview after the movie come out. I went, they should have let them do that.
Yeah.
They should have hid those people. They could have kept that secret. That movie would be, I don't feel enough people watch it now because they don't understand the history of it, but it could have been all time.
They couldn't do that now because the internet is just too big.
Right.
You can't shoot anything without somebody knowing about it.
Right.
Whereas when that came out, what was it, 98, 99? The internet was still kind of fledgling.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, yeah, keep these people off of a word, at least maybe for the movie. I mean, the way the shaky cam and the found footage is, they could have doctored their looks enough to where you wouldn't recognize them very well
Right.
if they were in a different movie.
Yeah.
But at least, I mean, they could have laid low 2-3 years.
I,
At this point, I mean, they're still not household names.
Yeah. They're unknowns. So, but the moment's gone, but still all time, you know. All right. My number 2, I think like The Exorcist, kids, when they're evil, scary as hell, right? You're religious, you grow up, you hear about Mark of the Beast and all this stuff. You're like, all right.
No.
So the first time I watched The Omen, I was like, oh my
We're
God.
talking about the old one?
Yes, the old one,
Okay.
the original one. The creepy ass kid with 666 in the back of his head. This kid's going around slaughtering people left and right, dude. He's supposed to be the devil or whatever. I remember watching that as a kid, terrified. I went, oh my God. Because I didn't watch The Exorcist as a kid. I don't think my parents were that nuts to let me watch that. But this is one of the first ones I did watch. I went, oh, wow, kids can be killers. Oh, that's terrifying. Because, like, I thought these were all my brethren here as a child. But some of those death scenes, man, people are killing themselves. But the scene.
I mean, the opening scene.
Yeah.
You got my attention.
Right. It is terrifying. And that kid, I don't know who that dude is. I don't know if he ever went on to do anything. But he should have got some type of award because that is the creepiest kid I've ever seen in a movie. Like, and I think this come out probably in the 80s, probably maybe late 70s, early 80s. I don't know, but
I think there's a theme running there.
well, I think that's
I mean,
that's when they were hitting their stride 100%. I'm obviously Mount Rushmore. I'm going to name some more modern ones and ones that aren't so quite based in reality, but I think so far these are very realistic horror movies, and I'm not a horror movie fan, like you said, but when it's done right, it's very enjoyable. So yeah, Omen, all time. That's Damien. Ugh. Someone I was like, dude, if I ever meet somebody named Damien, I'm out. I can't be friends.
The thing
with
is
this person.
like back in 2006, when people were happening to have kids on June 6th,
Ugh.
they were naming their kids Damien.
Oh, that's
and I
just,
was like, no.
what are you asking?
What is wrong
What are
with
you asking for?
So yeah.
Okay. Omen, my number 2. John, your number 3.
My number 3, I think, if we're talking about scary movies and this thing, we can't have a list without mentioning a Stephen King movie, and I think the scariest one probably would be the TV miniseries It.
TV.
Yeah, the one that happened.
No, bro, come on.
What?
I mean, the movie, I would say yes, because it's scary movies. I don't know if a docuseries is a movie, is it?
Oh, I mean, then make it the movie then.
That's
But I
up
thought
to
the one
you.
that-
You can do
the
whatever
one
you
that the one that was on TV in the late.
Have you watched the new one?
I've watched both of them.
Okay. Which one do you think was better?
I think the newer one was better
Which
shot,
was scarier?
but the first one was scary.
Okay. I've never seen the original. Truthfully, I haven't seen the new one. I have not seen it at all. I'm familiar with it. I could tell you scenes from it. I'm pretty sure I may have watched it when I was a kid, but I don't remember it. I haven't seen the new one, but I could tell you most of the movie. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not really hard to figure out. But Pennywise is a frightening thing. Like I say, people, oh, I'm scared of clowns. Shut up. No, you're scared of like this clown. I get it. Yeah, if the freaking clown was a demon that could turn into a spider, yeah, I would be scared of that guy too. You know. What is the? I mean, what is so scary about it? Do you think? I mean,
I think that the biggest difference from the old one for the new one, I mean, the new one, Skarsgård, man, he looks creepy out the gate.
Yeah, he does.
Whereas
He does.
Tim Curry's version the offers that sense of, oh, it's a clown. He's safe. And
Right.
you get up close to him, then he's
Oh, okay,
not so much.
I got you.
And so, to me, that's scary when you're lulled into this false sense of security,
Right.
and then all of a sudden, you're stuck,
Right.
and you can't backpedal out of that.
Yeah. No, I go with you.
And
on that.
so, and multiply that is, I mean, these are characters that are kids for the most part for the first half
oh yeah,
of the movie.
yeah, for sure.
And so that there's a whole another take on that is there's a vulnerability that you have as a kid where you don't have as an adult. When you're
Yeah.
an adult, you seem to be less scared about, the stabby things or things like
Right.
that. Whereas when you're a kid, there's a lot more that will get your goat. And so,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I mean, either version doesn't matter. I'm not putting which version. So yet both versions. That's fine. Okay, my number 3. Let's go with a classic, John Carpenter. You gotta go with Halloween. Halloween. No, not. I think it's not that scary, really. Halloween is scary because I think it really, of all the slasher movies, it is the best, bar none. Halloween, the first one. It's Michael Myers at his greatest. I mean, once again,
it's interesting that you picked that one because your last pick, you talked about kids killing somebody.
yeah,
And then mine was talking about a clown.
right,
I mean, the opening scene is Michael Myers as a kid dressed as a clown.
right.
And he kills somebody as
There
a
you go.
kid.
See, there's clowns, man. They're just getting a bad image, But no, Michael Myers is scary as shit, man. I mean, to me, it comes down: are you Halloween guy, or are you Friday the 13th guy? And I think Halloween's just scarier. I think Friday the 13th became like a parody of itself at some point. I mean, Halloween did a little bit too, but
I think whenever you introduce too much of the supernatural, it becomes way less real.
right,
And if it's less real, it's less scary. Which, I mean, that brings me to one of my honorable mentions that I'll talk about later.
okay,
But, whenever something becomes less real, it's just not as scary.
I agree.
And so, I mean, Friday the 13th, with the exception of the first one. The first one, there wasn't a whole lot of that
Two's all right.
supernatural stuff.
Yeah,
But as it went on,
Right.
I mean, you can't kill them and blah, blah, blah. And
you can't kill him. I mean, it is true. You can't kill, which is frightening. I mean, really, think about it. To introduce that concept, I mean, everyone pretty much before you can't kill a demon, so I guess that would be a bad example. But most of these dudes were killable. You get to a guy you can't kill, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, well, I could, the guy drops him with a gun, and it's like, nope, still alive, he's gone. Like, it's like, oh boy, that's not fun. So, yeah, but it's a classic movie, and once again, 70s movie. So Halloween's my number 3. All right, John, your last one. Your number 4.
my last one, it's, if you don't include the remake of It, which just come out fairly recently,
Yeah.
this will be my most recent movie, and
Okay.
that is Paranormal Activity.
All right. Never seen it. I
Um,
mean, I'm familiar with it. I've heard it's very creepy.
It is very, very creepy.
Is it like Blair Witch though? Is it all
It's the found footage.
found footage? Okay.
Well, some of it's found footage. They're setting up cameras to try and figure out what's going on, and you're watching these cameras on like what's it called, a time.
Yeah, time lapse thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff it shows, it's just really. After watching this, I watched this with a group of friends at a friend's house, and nobody wanted to go home immediately. Let's put it that way.
I know. I've heard.
Let's do something else. Let's kind of
That's
get
why,
our minds
yeah,
off
but
of this
see,
movie before we go out separate, alone.
That's why I don't want to watch that though, because I'm like, what is? I mean, at least I think a lot of these made in the 70s were trying to be entertaining or at least thought provoking. And I know, and it is scary. It's not good movies, and that's why I've never wanted to watch that movie, because everyone I've talked to is like, yeah, it's just the scariest thing. I'm like, dude, no, I don't want to watch that, man. Like, I don't want to be, you're at home by yourself and you hear a noise, you're already freaking out, man.
Yeah, don't watch this alone. There was about 9 or 10 of us watching this movie at the same time.
I ain't watching that, but I hear that's a good choice. I'm glad you picked a more recent one. Okay, well, I'm gonna pick my my other one is a more recent movie. It's a movie called The Ring, and if you've ever seen that creepy little girl, oh my God, that movie. So it's based, I believe, on a Japanese movie, and then it was Americanized, and it is if the phone rings, you're dead. And
I think it's a video.
oh, if you watch the video,
watch the
that's right. If
video,
you watch
you
the
die.
video, you die. What's the movie? There's one where I remember Chris telling us about some. One was if you answer the phone. Maybe it was The Ring
the
too.
Cringe or something. What's
Maybe.
the one with Sarah Michelle Gellar in it?
The Grudge.
I think that's that
Okay.
one.
Okay. Gotcha. Anyways, yes, if you watch the VHS, which I guess we would all be safe because no one has a VCR anymore, but if you do, you will die within, I think it's like 7 days or something, or maybe it's a certain amount of time. And man, some of the imagery in this is just creepy. Once again, kids, if you want to scare people, make the main villain a kid, because the freaky, man, when they start looking weird, they got weird eyes, have black hair. You've seen the image of The Ring.
Weird kids, they're off-putting.
Yes, for sure. I mean, there's a number of other movies where kids are in. Yeah, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but yeah, anytime I saw kids, I'm like, oh hell no, because like I can handle an adult being like a serial killer, but like a kid, that's just like, because it's like, oh, this kid's like evil, like that's evil. Like you can explain how an adult's evil. This happened to him. This happened to him. When a kid like Damien's like evil at 2 years old, you're like, oh shit, he's just evil. So
Yeah.
all right, let's recap, and then we'll go over some that didn't make the list. John had The Exorcist, Blair Witch, It, and Paranormal Activity. I had Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Omen, Halloween, and The Ring. John, what did not make the cut for you?
Insidious.
Never seen it.
That's one of the ones where I was talking about the first 3/4 of the movie. Spooky as all get out.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Okay.
But then he goes into this dream kind of world, and it lost me after that. I was
Okay.
like,
All right.
it's not scary anymore because he's in that supernatural world.
Gotcha.
I know I'm not going there,
Right.
so it doesn't affect me.
All right.
Poltergeist.
I had that one. I almost made the list, but
I mean, when you bring kids into it, I mean, whether they're good or bad, there's this level of, I mean, especially when you're a parent, it just,
yeah, Poltergeist is creepy as hell, especially when you're a kid.
it's a little bit hokey, but I'm going just with the first one, not
Okay.
any of the other ones. A Nightmare on Elm Street.
I had it written down. Yeah, the first one is creepy as hell because when you go to sleep, that's supposed to be your safe place. And
Yeah.
No, I agree. The first one is a good
And the thing
movie.
is if you've ever had to stay awake for any reason, just having that feeling where you can't go to sleep
Yeah.
is horrible.
Yeah, I
It's like
agree.
torture in
Yes.
itself.
So, yeah.
And then knowing that if you do go to sleep, there's a good chance you're not going to wake up. That's another.
Yeah, I should have given that more consideration, but yeah, it's a good pick.
You had Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That was on my list as well.
Did you have Children of the Corn on your
Children of
list?
the Corn, I mean, back to what you said, creepiness.
Ooh, that movie probably, I don't know if it was The Omen or Children of the Corn that scared me the most as a kid, but it was one of those two movies. I was very frightened of Children of the Corn.
I think you made the right choice with going Omen,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Children of the Corn, it's kind of corny, truthfully, a little bit. If you
No
watch
pun
it
intended.
today, yeah, that's true. But I'd say Omen is still, to me, scary today. Children of the Corn is kind of like, really? Is this what I was scared? But at the time, yeah, it was very scary.
I mean, there's a couple of other Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
But yeah, the slashers done. Yeah,
I don't know. So here's some stuff in the chat. They said Arachnophobia, Poltergeist, The Grudge. We talked about Omen, The Birds, The Hills Have Eyes. Yeah, that is actually very scary. It's hillbilly stuff. Amityville Horror, which I hear is scary. And then Glenn says Children of the Corn. So that is the Mount Rushmore of scary movie. I think it was a very good list. Hopefully you'll watch some of those this Halloween season. I did want to say in the chat, Glenn said, David, not all Church of Christ believe that. Speaking of people going to hell. But from my understanding, and I was very involved in Church of Christ, I was going to be at some point.
I mean, there's a lot of churches that
don't follow the rules.
Well, they're when it comes down to the dogma of what they actually believe, it could change from
That's right.
church corner to church corner.
But the dogma of Church of Christ, for the majority, is that concept.
Well, the thing is if you've been baptized Baptist and you go to a Church of Christ church and you want to join that church, you have to be rebaptized. Because the baptism at the Baptist church did not count.
Because Church of Christ literally believes without the baptism, you are not saved. They literally believe If you do not get dunked in the water, your soul's not saved. All right. Well, anyway. Okay, so we've come up to the end of the show. I say some scary movies, some scary church talk about the Covenant Church. I do encourage you to go check out that doc. It is very interesting. And then, Death of a Cat. It's been a creepy episode. So what can we say? Hopefully, no Pet Cemetery stuff happens with that because that would be unfortunate. But, sorry for the loss of your cat. And sorry you guys are at the end of the episode. Wish we could do for another hour, but we can't. So this is the end of it for now. But yes, what you need to do now that this episode is over is go, number one, tell all of your friends about the show. That's how we spread the message. Spread it with your friends on social media and real life. Go to the website, bybpod.com. That's
Let's
our
create a BYB cult.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, I'll be the preacher of that. I thought, man, maybe I should have just been a cult leader. I mean, I think I've done it all wrong now, man. But hey, if we get enough crazy people, I will start the Blame Your Brother Church. But yeah, go to our website, bybpod.com. You can get all of our past episodes there, all of our social media links, ways to grab the show, Amazon affiliate link. John, how did they do that?
You go to BYB Pod, you see that Amazon affiliate link. I mean, Halloween's coming up. Christmas is around the corner. I mean, even Thanksgiving, you can buy groceries online. Go to our affiliate link first. Then click on it, buy your stuff. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It just helps us out.
There you go. No more instructions needed. Do that. And then, rate us, review us on Apple Podcasts if you haven't done so. And you guys have a great week. Enjoy the next week off. Go listen to some past episodes or just take a breather. But we'll be back the week after that to do the Mount Rushmore of Halloween candy.
I think so.
All right. With all that being said, John, is there anything else?
Don't blame yourself when you can blame your brother.
And we are done. Man, you were great.